Hello, my name is Sarah Resch, and we are here to talk today about having hard conversations. Oh my goodness, let's start. First of all, again, here's me. I have been having hard conversations for decades. They sometimes get easier, and then again, sometimes they're still just really hard. As we tweak our skills and each hard conversation, we kind of layer and get more experience and a little bit more confidence. So they do absolutely get easier. Um, but at the same time, it's always still hard. So if you're feeling like conversations are hard now, understand that you are absolutely not alone, and we are all with you, and can offer some support. Again, my name is Sarah Resch. I have a Bachelor of Science degree from the University of Wisconsin La Crosse in Recreation Management. When I was there in the 90s, I had an English 110 class, and it was an English writing class that one thing that we had to do, we had textbook rental at UWL, which I loved. Didn't have to buy all of our books, but our English professor did make us buy one book called Writer's Ink. Big yellow book. Here it is right here. I still have it. It was back here in my cupboard. I still keep it close, even though I don't use it as much. This book was amazing because it had every example of writing that you could think of. If you needed a resume, if you needed to write a letter to a judge, if you needed to write a business letter, if you needed to do a memo, like faxes were big back then, you could have it showed you how to write a fax memo. I mean, it was everything from papers and essays and everything. And I loved this for writing. The problem is that when you're writing, you also have time to think about it and re-edit and take the words and change the words. And wow, I wish we had had a Writer's Ink book for hard conversations, because when I think of all of the things that I've had to write, I can write and do the rough draft, get it out there, and then I read through it and I'll be like, "Ooh, that sounds really harsh," or "Oh, I didn't mean to sound like that." And I wish we could do that with our words. But we can't. So once you say those words, they're out there. You can't bring them back. You remember the visual of crumpling up the paper, and you can never get the paper smooth again. Once the words are out there, they're out there. So I'm going to teach you some tips that I've learned through the years of how to handle hard conversations and make them just a little bit easier. Again, here's my top 6 tactics to master hard conversations. And my point of this slide was to get you from out of the hammock where you just want to pull it up to your eyeballs and not have to face the world, to not feeling cringe about hard conversations, but get to the point where you can be confident, like the young man on the right, and ready to for whatever life throws at you. My 6 tactics are: listen more than you speak. I'm going to expand upon these in a minute, but listen more than you speak especially when the other person is upset. Focus on the facts, not the story. Pay attention to your physical response. Maintain respect in the conversation. Make space for the conversation, and slow down and voice down. So listen more than you speak, especially when the other person is upset. Oh my goodness, this is the best lesson I can give you. Most people, when they are upset, just want to be heard. And they are upset because they feel that something happened to them or to their loved one. The makers of the tiny humans really like to defend their tiny humans. So if it gets very emotional and they just want to be heard. So just listen. And it may not be that you are the person that's going to be able to solve their problem. Maybe you know that your department is the waterfront and their complaint is about the ropes course, or you are their complaint is about their fees, and you have nothing to do with the fees. Still listen to them, because if you interrupt them and tell them that you need to transfer them to somebody else or have them speak to somebody else, they're going to feel again like they're not being heard. So just take that time and listen more than you speak. When it's time to talk, it's great to repeat back some questions. So I understand that you are really upset. This is the situation that I'm hearing. You have paid $400 towards your fees, but on your invoice, it's showing here that you only paid $200, right? Is that what I'm hearing? Do I have this correct? Okay, great. So I'm not the person that handles the fees, but I'm going to get this to the person that handles the fees. and we're going to get back to you, within a day. Don't promise something that you can't meet. So I'm going to I'm going to get that to them within a day. If you want to call back tomorrow and speak to this person, promise, tell them what you can deliver. Listening to people, it helps them get what they need to get off their chest, have someone listen to them. Write down their contact information and give it to a person responsible for whatever the task is. I find it's really helpful for people, have them, hey, here's a piece of paper and a pen. Can you please write down your name, contact information, and whatever the situation is. The act of having them write sometimes just kind of gets to a different part of their brain, and it gets them out of their head just a little bit. And it also gives them something to do that they're going to give to you, and you're telling them that you're taking this and going to handle it. So just that act of, it's a small thing, but it makes a difference in the mind of somebody who's upset. Try hard not to take on their emotions. So what I mean by that is that when someone is upset with you, sometimes it's easy to and you feel yourself kind of cringe back. But remember, they're not yelling at you. Most likely, they're upset about something bigger than, me as Sarah Rash. They're not yelling at me. They're upset with me because it's my program and I'm the person representing the program. So that helps me take a little bit of a step back. Now there are sometimes that it's me that they are yelling at and I did something wrong, or I did something that they perceive as wrong, either way. And they are yelling at me because of a choice that I made. Again, I have to try really hard not to take on that emotion, but I'm gonna write down what it is. I'm gonna say, oh, we're gonna talk to my supervisor, and or ask the question, what do you need to make, how can we make this right? Often we forget to ask that question, so they're upset and they just keep spinning because we're not asking them what they want. And then again, when they give the answer, sometimes I may not be authorized to give you what you want, but I will share that information on, and someone will get back to you. That's all that part of listen more than you speak, and then you're gonna kind of follow the vein from there. I think of all the people that work in the offices of our camps and of our after school programs. They get the brunt of it. Hello, this is Peachtree Camp. How can I help you? And they just get blasted often, and they have to do this every day. Listen more than you speak. This is a lesson learned at the Culver's drive-through. This is not actually, I did not speak with Ashley. This is off of the Culver's website. So thank you, Culver's, for your picture. Ashley, the person I came through the drive-through with was so bubbly, and she was so nice. And I had heard her kind of, it was a loud conversation before my car got up to the drive-through because my window was open and I could hear this. And so I just looked at her and I was like, that was wonderful. Like, you are so nice. I'm sorry that I just heard the raised language. You handle, great job, and you've got a smile on your face. And the words that she told me next have stayed with me since this day. And this must have been in 2009. This is a long time. She said, I never know what people have experienced before they get to my window. She's like, the best thing that I can do is while they're here in my window, I can give them a good experience. And she's like, it's not, perhaps they just had the worst news of their life before coming through this drive-through to pick up food to go and to go home and deal with whatever that was. And I just thought that was really, really a good lesson to keep with me. So I do try to remember that I don't know when someone is upset because of something that happened at camp. I don't know what else is packed in their baggage for the day that they have to carry around. So all I can do is work with what I've got today. That's what I learned at the Culver's drive-through. Number 2 is focus on the facts, not the story. So I was in a training once that talked a lot about, it's called Crucial Conversations. If you ever get the chance to take it, it is very good. It's about a 2-day course. But Focus on the facts, not the story. So when you're talking about things, it's easy to take on that emotion and make assumptions. So one thing that I've tried hard to train myself on is this fact or is this story? And sometimes it's other people adding to the story, adding story to the facts, but sometimes it's me adding story to the facts. Because I've known this camper for X number of years and I know how they think. Except I may not know what they're thinking in this one moment. So that is part of the story. It's not part of the fact. Um, so it's important to recognize the difference between facts and then check each other. And if you can do this with your co-counselor or with another person at work or even in your personal life, it is helpful to say, okay, this is what I heard. Is that what you heard? Like these are the facts. Can we just do a fact check? And there are times that I will, in my professional experiences with staff now, I'll say, ooh, but is that story or is that fact? Or are you adding to the story? What is the fact? So as an example, and this is an honest to goodness true story that happened to me early in my career. I had a parent call me very not happy because her daughter left her family heirloom hairbrush at camp and it did not come home. Her counselor had used it to braid her hair, and so her counselor was the last one that her kid like gave it to, and so she was positive that this counselor stole this hairbrush because it was a family heirloom and she loved this hairbrush. So through all of this, my job was to distinguish the fact. So the fact was that the hairbrush did not come home. And the story is that the staff member took it. I don't know that. She doesn't know that. The camper doesn't know that. And I can talk to the staff member to find out that if that is fact or not, but it's probably story at this point in time because mom doesn't know this. Um, so after I've listened to this parent, because I'm listening more than I'm talking at first, then I'm going to focus on the facts. I'm going to reiterate. So what I'm hearing, your daughter left her hairbrush here. Does your daughter know? Move to the questions. Does your daughter remember where she was the last time she saw her hairbrush? And you can kind of talk people through, and I'm going to admit it's a little bit of a distraction technique too, because I will ask them, well, can you ask your daughter? We had the water carnival the last thing of the day on Friday. Did she remember having her hair brushed? Like, was her hair brushed at the end of the water carnival? Because that is usually when the hairbrushes get lost, is after the water carnival when there's 200 kids in the pool. Ask those questions, and I'm going to be real honest and say we never did find the family heirloom hairbrush. But one change that I have now made, and it is still on my packing list to this day, is to things to leave at home, family heirlooms and valuables. So I did learn from that situation as well. But the other time that fact and story gets mixed up is interpersonal relationships. So, when campers are bickering with each other or staff are having a hard time with each other, oftentimes it's because of a misunderstanding or something that someone is interpreting as or is adding to the story and is not a fact. So focusing on the facts is an easier way to do something to solve to solve the problem and give you some things to ask questions about. The third one is pay attention to your physical response. And I actually don't. Oh, no, I don't. So I'm going to go back to this slide. I did not do a slide for this one, but I pay attention to your physical response. So again, when you feel cringy, and sometimes I go like this with my shoulders when I think of these hard conversations, because that's kind of what it feels like. Is it feels like, oh, I'm gonna, what's gonna happen? And so I've learned to, drop my shoulders because I feel a lot of my stress here in my shoulders, and so I try mindful of dropping my shoulders and not fidgeting with my hands when I'm talking and having these uncomfortable conversations. Sometimes I will even put my hands in my pockets or hold on to a clipboard or something to make sure that I'm not fidgeting, but I still have my fingers on something because I really want to fidget. So that's something that I've learned. Also, watch your face. So there's a lot of nonverbal communication that happens when having a conversation, and make sure that you're not, cringing like this, or, try to keep your face calm and like you're concerned about, you're intently listening to what they're saying. instead of having those, "Ooh, oh my gosh, that sounds horrible," kind of reactions. Pay attention to your body language, because again, you're hearing one side of the story, and that's facts with story. So make sure that you're listening intently, paying attention to your body language. Oh, the other thing is sometimes people cross their arms a lot. Crossing your arms like kind of looks like you're on the defensive or like you're ready to go on the offensive. So watch your arms. All right. So the next one, number 4, is maintain respect in the conversation. I use this slide of we don't always have to agree with one another, but it's important that we learn to respect each other, from Ruby Ann. This is yeah, it's so very true. Uh, Respect is very subjective. And so what may feel disrespectful to me does not feel disrespectful to the next person. The way that we may talk in my family, in my house at home, we joke around a lot and we laugh a lot, but that may seem to somebody else like I'm laughing at them because they don't understand that I tend to laugh about a lot of different things. And so I have to be mindful of that. I have to recognize that in myself. Because others might interpret that to me that I'm laughing at them, and I'm not. That's not my intent, but that is what I look like. So take a moment to think of what respect means to you and how you can show respect to others. Be that through your body language, through your words, through your actions. Um, Again, the last one that we talked about was paying attention to physical response, but there's an awful lot of respect that can be shown through your physical response. So just think about that in your stance. When I have people come into my office to speak with me, I try not to have a desk in between us. I don't like that because it kind of shows a power thing. So pay attention to if you're going to be outside, like, can we sit down at this picnic table? And because if you are sitting, there's not someone standing over the other one and potentially feeling disrespectful. Things to avoid. We definitely want to avoid cursing, talking under your breath or as you walk away. And I want to stay away from any eye and head choreography. Like keep the choreography to a minimum, because it's going to set them off and it's going to turn the situation worse. Unfortunately, you probably may be on the receiving end of some eye and hair and head choreography. But as the professional, keep your face calm, keep yourself calm, so that all of the things that you have to tell your supervisor are things that they did instead of saying, oh, and this happened. Pass the conversation to your manager or your supervisor and tell, and if the person you're in the conversation with is being disrespectful and cursing, being mean, name calling, like being just mean, tell them you're going to pass the information to your manager, your supervisor, and they will schedule a time to speak to them at a later time when everybody is cool, calm, and collected. Remember, it's a workplace conversation. It does need to be respectful. And that respect goes both ways. If you're being sworn at, simply say, please don't use that language with me. Or I will not continue this conversation with that language being used. At this point, you'll speak to your supervisor, let them know what happened and who is the best person to finish the conversation. It might not be you. It might be better to have somebody else actually address this conversation or give a try at it. Do not take the bait and swear yourself. Sometimes it's really hard when you want to say something back, but don't do it. The minute a swear word comes out of your mouth or an insult comes out of your mouth, you lose all credibility. So make sure that you just don't do it, because that gives them a true reason to be upset, because you shouldn't be speaking like this to clients, customers, or visitors. And then they do have something to be able to say, and then she said this or he said this to your supervisor, and you could get written up. You could have issues at work. Don't go there. Make sure to keep it respectful. You get to have respect from them. You also need to be respectful to them. Make space for the conversation. This one, I'm going to say a big thank you to my friend Deshaun, who is working for us now. I asked him what advice he might have, and he came up with this one because he said setting the stage for these conversations is important. So when you're talking about making space for the conversation, we're talking about literal space and figurative space. So if you're right in the middle, so this area here at camp is where our day camp kids will be picked up. So there's a lot of parent interactions at the end of the day picking up in this area. And there's a lot of kids around because it's kind of free play time as they're all waiting for parents to arrive. So you're going to want to make sure that you can go to the side or go to the parent's car and have the conversation through the window at the car. That could work. But make sure that you're making physical space where nobody can hear you or overhear you. And it's also not super distracting if possible. And then figurative space too. You may be speaking about a health concern. You may be speaking about a choice that their child made that day that you want to make sure that you tell them how you handled it and asking them to also have a conversation at home. These are things that could be embarrassing to the child, could be embarrassing to the parent or guardian, could be embarrassing for you, and you want to step aside. They're in a space like this. There's opportunity to go to the side of the field or the edge of the field and just ask, oh, I have to have a private conversation. If any kids come up to you, you're still in full view of other people. So it's a safe situation. Everybody can see where you're at. But there's space to talk without people overhearing you and learning their business or your business. You want to be away from the tea spillers and the children. Let's face it. We know what happens in groups during the summertime. Everybody wants to know everybody else's business. And the fact of the matter is that everybody doesn't doesn't deserve to know everybody's business. So if it's, if it's a medical situation, if it is a behavior situation, even if it's just a sad moment that a child had at camp, everybody doesn't deserve to know that. That's between you and the parent or a guardian. Or if you're talking with kids as well, everybody doesn't need to know the kid's business. They chose to tell you, and you are going to know the parameters of when you need to tell somebody. If a child is being hurt, if a child is in an unsafe situation, etc. Of course, we're all mandatory reporters, and we need to report those things. But oftentimes the conversations they're just private, and it's okay it's not just okay. It's important to have those conversations with kids and know and so that they know that is going to happen between you and them. They're asking you and wanting your confidence. So make sure that you're mindful of who is around you when having these conversations. And always in sight of others. So there are lots of times that you're going to want to have a one-on-one conversation with a staff member, with a camper, with a parent. Make sure that you have identified spaces in your camp area or your program area that you can have these conversations that are in full view of everyone, so that you're not going into an office door, closing the door behind you and having, two adults behind a door. Of course, you'd never have one adult and a child behind a door like that. So make sure that you can, maybe there's a picnic table in the courtyard that you can go to and everybody can see you, but they can't hear what you're saying as you're sitting there talking to a child at the picnic table. Make space for the conversation and give the conversation the respect and space that it deserves. Thanks to Sean. Slow down and voice down. Again, with that physical response piece, I noticed that lots of times when people are anxious or you're anticipating that's going to be a hard conversation, the voice kind of goes up like this. And so then you're talking like this and it's showing nerves a little bit. So if you can just calm your voice, keep your slow down your words so that you're not speaking super fast. Just be mindful of your tone of voice. Keeping your voice down is much more calm for talking to people. Now, not so slow that they're going to feel like you're talking down to them. So there's a difference. Find your sweet spot. Because when I talk like this to parents, they're probably going to think I'm talking to them like a kindergartner. And I don't want to talk to parents that way. Children may be different. If I'm talking to a kindergartner, I will talk to a kindergartner that way. If I'm talking to an 8th grader, we're going to have a harder conversation if I talk like that. So pay attention to your voice, keep your voice tone down low, and just talk so that, like I said, my writer's ink book that I have, I don't get the opportunity to do that when I'm speaking. I can't go through and edit what I'm saying. But if I slow down a little bit, I can listen to it in my brain just a tad bit before it comes out of my mouth. So especially for like if a child was hurt at camp, or if there was a tussle between two kids and they were fighting throughout the day, um, uh, just be mindful about speaking slowly, not placing blame. You're just giving them the facts on what happened and how you responded, and what the next steps are. So those are my 6 tactics. I want to leave you with one last thing that I think is really important: how to ask for help. So it is hard to ask for help. Like, that is a hard conversation to have, to go to somebody else and say that you need help, or it can be. Some people this is very easy for. I'm going to give you a 3 steps here to make it easier for you. I find it's much easier to ask for help when I do it this way. So state the challenge, what you challenge. My camp name is Charlie. People also call me Charlie. Hey, Charlie, Kate and Beth are fighting all day long. It's been all day long that they've been fighting. And I say, okay, and I'll listen a little bit more. And if they stop there, I'm like, ooh, okay, because I can give them suggestion after suggestion after suggestion, and they can just say, I tried that. I tried that. Nope, I already tried that. That didn't work. Well, that is not a super productive conversation. So if they don't offer it themselves, I'll say, okay, what are a couple things that you've tried? And I will prompt the conversation if people are coming to me with their problems. If I'm coming to someone with a problem, I'll say, oh, Kate and Beth have been fighting all day long. After breakfast, we pulled the 2 of them aside, had a conversation with the 2 of them together, asked them to please cool it, tried to figure out what the problem was. Figured out what the problem was, but it kept going after that. So after lunch, after rest period, we set the whole group down, and we just told the whole group that this has to stop. I don't know what else to do. What can I do? So there I stated the challenge. Beth and Kate are fighting. I told them the 2 to 3 things that I tried. They didn't work, because they just didn't work. And then they're asking me, what are some other things that I can try? And so the person offering help now has the opportunity to say, well, this is what I think you should try next, or here are some ideas of what you could try next. It doesn't mean that they're going to take it over and handle the situation for you, although it might in some other situations. But when you're asking for help, you're actually asking for knowledge or assistance. So maybe they can say, ooh, if it was me, I think I would try X, Y, and Z. Or I could say, you know what? I have Penguin is done at the swimming pool in about a half an hour. Why don't I pull Penguin into your cabin and just see if the way that he communicates can maybe help keep things down, because they really like him as a staff member. I noticed that your cabin likes him, so maybe that will just make a difference, because I'm offering assistance for what to help. So if it's kids coming up to you, or if it's fellow staff members coming up to you and say, I don't know how to do my timesheet, okay, what have you tried? Did you log in? What have you tried? And prompt them to ask you, because they haven't tried anything. You would always say, why don't you go try a few things? Or remember in training when we did this, try a few things first, and then I'll come help you. Because we don't want to get people in the habit of just having other people do their work for them. That's not cool. But we also want to respond when people are asking for help. So let's teach people how to ask, how we want to be asked for help. And also knowing your supervisor, if you come to your supervisor, your boss, your teacher, your parents, your guardians, whoever, and you're saying, this is what this is my problem. I've tried these 3 things. What else can I ask? That opens the door for them to give advice. Some people won't give advice without being asked. Some people give too much without being asked, but that opens the door to them to say, okay, this is what I think. And hopefully you can get a little bit further with that. Thank you so much for your time today. Again, I want to leave you with those 6 tactics of handling hard conversations. They're hard, but to quote Michael Brandwein, we can do hard things. We absolutely can do tough and difficult and impossibly huge things. You just do it. What's that saying? How do you eat an elephant? 1 step at a time. So listen more than you speak when the other person is upset. Focus on the facts, not the story. Pay attention to your physical response. Maintain respect in the conversation. Make space for the conversation. slow down, voice down, and then remember how to ask for help. Thank you so much. Have a great summer. I can't wait to hear about them later. My email address, send me a story about a hard conversation that you succeeded at. Thank you.